To be honest, sometimes I get a little irritated when I see the number of full-size pickup trucks on the road. And here I am, I just went and bought one. Let me explain why. So this is a 2020 F-150 4x4 that I just paid cash for. But I need to clarify something, because a couple of months ago, I made a video about a 20-year-old van that I drove for 18 years and how I was very intentional about choosing to drive that vehicle for so long, and how a lot of people are just not very intentional about the vehicle that they choose to drive. And the reason why I get irritated is because for most people it doesn't make sense to buy a truck. And the great thing is, it doesn't have to make sense. You can drive whatever vehicle we want, right? Because we're America. But the bottom line is, it's not very efficient, and when we're not very efficient and intentional about things, then it ends up taking away from our happiness and adding more stress to our lives. For example, if you're driving to work in an office, or you're after work, you're just going to pick up your kid from school and take him to practice, you don't maybe need a 4x4 transfer case, or a large empty bed, or that extra drive axle for the front. You don't need all those things, right? So it's just not very efficient, and you have to admit these things are just not as easy to park as a more practical car. I tend to have more in common with people who are intentional about what they drive, because that intention tends to carry over into other areas of their life as well. So when we moved from Hawaii to Kentucky, I literally gave that van away. A friend of mine knew a family that was in needed a car, so I just signed over the title and gave it to them. So obviously we needed to buy a new vehicle moving here. Well, our lifestyle is going to be a little bit different now. Well, for one, it snows here, so I needed something that was four-wheel drive. I needed big crew cab, four-door, because, well, we have 4 kids, so we need a vehicle that carries our whole family. And I wanted the 6.5-foot bed. Most of these trucks, this one was actually really hard to find, because most of them have the 5.5-foot bed, which is not really big enough to carry motorcycles and dirt bikes. That's what we plan on getting. And we do a lot of bike riding on the trails, so we're going to be able to put our bikes back here, and also camping, because there's a lot of great state parks back here. So I'm actually really going to use this as a truck bed. The other thing that I was intentional about is the color white. Not my favorite color, but so many of them were gray or silver, and I didn't want a color like that because they're just not as visible. So to me, I see them as less safe. So that's how I ended up with a white truck. Weren't a lot of options. And I specifically wanted used because I'm not going to invest that much money into a depreciating asset. And I don't care about some of the cosmetic issues, like apparently this is like chrome plated that's peeling there. There's a little bit of rust on this step, a little bit of corrosion. I don't really care about that, right? It's about the functionality of the vehicle, and it's what we need for now. So there you go. That's why I bought this truck. Of course, we don't have to justify our purchases to anybody outside of our family, but the whole purpose for this video was to just encourage people to be more intentional about the process that goes into what type of vehicle they drive and why. Because if you do that, you're just going to have more order and more peace and happiness in other areas of your life. So what do you drive, and are you intentional about it? Either way, thanks for watching, and if you disagree with any of this, I'd really love to hear from you as well.